And we are live!
They've won Tonys and Oscars and Emmys and Grammys. There's no red carpet cause they're home in their jammies. From Melrose Place to Broadway to Janeway and her crew. Let Seth and James bring all the stars to you.
Anywho.
They're entertaining everyone, so who's gonna grouse? Just sit right back and you'll hear some tales on Stars in the House.
So good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Stars in the House. I'm James Wesley Jackson. This is Seth Rudetsky, and this is Winnie.
Our new baby. She insisted upon coming up.
And Seth insisted on her being up.
Well, she wanted to be
Well, except I'm nervous because we're on stools, and so the bed is twice the size of the
actual
stool.
She weighs 2 pounds. If she falls to the ground, it's like...
And when Judy Kuhn gets here, where is she going to go?
I don't know.
She'll be on the floor?
It's all good.
It's all good. Anyway, we are here for the Entertainment Community Fund and to celebrate the life of Charles Strouse. Seth, what Charles Strouse has? We're gonna talk a lot today about Charles, and we have clips, and we have Judy Kuhn, who's gonna come in and sing live, and we have Bill Berloni, who's gonna be joining us virtually. But what was the first Charles Strouse show that you remember?
Oh, we'll go through his whole career, but his first big show was Bye Bye Birdie, and then he did All American, which was unfortunately a flop that he wrote. Mel Brooks was actually his first Broadway musical, even though no one ever says that. But he wrote that beautiful song, Once Upon a Time. So it was All American, and then he did It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. And then, there's a great song I was going to do. I forgot, because he did the show called The Broadway Musical.
Seth basically got together an hour's worth of clips.
Yeah,
and
so many
We
clips.
have to do a few fewer clips.
We have Bill Berloni here
he wrote
because
a lot.
Yeah, he wrote a lot. And we have Bill Berloni here because he was the dog trainer on Annie, and we have Judy Kuhn here because she was one of the stars of Rags, which a lot of people think is Charles's best score that he wrote with Stephen Schwartz. So I have some great inside scoop because I got to interview him, and we're going to get some what it was like working with him from Bill Berloni and Judy Kuhn, and plus live singing and great clips, blah blah.
So, like I said, we're here for the Entertainment Community Fund. That's why we started the show back in 2020 was to help them, and we've raised, thanks to viewers like you, over $1.3 million. But we saw Maggie Overender on Sunday at an event.
Because Maggie works at the Actors Fund / Entertainment Community Fund.
Yes, and she's been our liaison from day one of Stars in the House, or I should say day -2, and it was her birthday right before we started. So,
Right.
But I said, are there any updates? And she said, as far as updated fund news, we found that people are most concerned these days about health insurance. The fund provides free health insurance counseling and enrollment assistance. And here's a quote from a recent client about how the fund helped her. So I just wanted to read it. I was losing my health insurance I had through my union acting job and felt so lost on what to do and how. I talked with Vinny, a senior health benefits specialist at the fund, over the course of several days, and he explained everything to me calmly and patiently and in a way that I could understand and grasp. I went from feeling completely disempowered to empowered. Also, I went from being uninsured to being insured.
Wow.
I was feeling panicky and scared, but having Vinny's help made me feel secure and supported. I asked him so many questions over and over again, and he never once judged me. He answered my questions with kindness and in layman's terms. I love that. So that is part of the money goes to counselors and social workers who help people with everyday things like when you no longer have health insurance.
Yeah, we actually know somebody that has to get major surgery, and he turned to the fund. I mean, he's raised money for the fund, but a lot of people don't put it together like, oh, wait, they can actually help me. And he's, a big Broadway star. And I was looking at the fund, not just to help pay, but just to help navigate, like what that guy just said, to help navigate. You don't feel alone when you have the fund.
Don't feel alone. That's the big
You have the
thing.
fund behind you. By the way, she's totally upstaging. She wants to eat this like it's a toy.
Of course
we
she
may have
does.
to get her a stick or something. Oh, poor baby.
So, Seth, I'm leaving for London on Sunday. I'm going to stay with the Nymans.
They did our New Year's Eve show, remember? We did our
Yes.
game night on New Year's Eve. Andy Nyman, who's coming back to the West End to star in...
The producers. And that's Judy Kuhn, whom we almost saw but didn't see because we saw Fiddler on the Roof and
with Andy Nyman.
But it was the week that Judy was out.
But we're going to see Andy and the producers when
we do our cruise.
Yeah, we do a Broadway cruise together. We're going to stop in London first before we go to
Right.
the Canary Islands.
But I always stay with the Nymans. They're my London family, and Seth, I'm adding up today the amount of theater I'm seeing. I haven't seen this much theater in New York, I think, ever.
I mean, all like in a short period of time.
And so I'm going to do these, I'm going to film segments. Jesse Tyler Ferguson just said yes. I'm going to be at the National Theater.
Oh, we're going to film segments for
on
Stars in the
Wednesday.
House.
For Stars in the House, yes. Because I'm seeing Emma Kingston, who is fabulous, who's starring as Elphaba right now in Wicked.
She's one of the best singers ever.
I'm going to see her in Wicked on Tuesday night. Wednesday, I'm going to the National with Preston Nyman, Andy's son, Andy and Sophie's son.
What's playing at the National?
And Here We Are.
That's that Sondheim musical that no one could ever get tickets for.
Yeah, the Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Jane Krakowski are in, and a bunch of British folk.
Wow, you're going to get to see
that.
that.
I'm going to see it with Preston, and Preston is starring in The Deep Blue Sea on the West End.
Preston was just in Mufasa, the Lion King. He's
movie.
Andy Nyman's son. So you're going to see three shows so far, West End shows.
I'm going to see Frogs sometimes. So I'm going from actually first Sondheim at the Southwick Playhouse because Kevin McHale is one of the stars to his last. Here We Are at the National.
Wow.
And Vanessa Williams, Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God, I'm so jealous. What the hell am I doing in New York?
I know. So I'm going to be, I basically won't be doing anything but seeing theater. But I thought
you're
it's going to be
filming
fun.
segments with them.
Yeah, and because really, and I'm hoping with the artistic director at the National, because unlike the United States, whereas if you tuned into Stars in the House on Saturday and you heard Bill Berloni talk about the National Endowment for the Arts grants that have been cut.
Yeah, Goodspeed lost $60,000. One grant that was $60,000.
Right.
They lost
and
it.
not like for next year, but like right away. We really, in the UK, it's the exact opposite. And there's so much theater, and they really fund the arts. And it doesn't matter if it's the Conservatives, Labour Party, it doesn't. I don't think it really changes because they just, as a society and as a culture, know how important the arts are for people. So I really want to do that because a future show, which I haven't talked to you about really, but Tim Daly, actor Tim Daly, his sister Tyne Daly has been on the show with Sharon Gless when we did Cagney and Lacey a while back. But Tim is the president of Creative Coalition, and it's all about supporting funding for the arts. It's also a 501c3. And so I'm hoping that he'll be here joining you when I'm in London, and maybe we'll have a clip of me talking with the artistic director of the National. So we have a lot.
Hello.
But the show coming right up is Tanika Gibson on Tuesday night. Here, Stars in the House, 8:00. It's Foster Care Awareness Month. And Tanika, who you've seen on our show many times, the Voices Stars for Foster Kids. She herself was in foster care. She's going to be. Has it been announced? Is that I can say?
I
what
know
show
that she's
she's
been
going
on
to be
Broadway
in?
already in Into the Woods, and before that she was in Ain't You Proud?
Yeah.
And she just did Ragtime at Encore, so I'm assuming she's
there
going to
you
do
go.
Ragtime when it comes to Broadway.
That's right.
But she's going to be hosting on Tuesday.
gonna be hosting.
She's a former foster kid. She's got an amazing story, and because it's Foster Care Awareness Month, is it going to be raising money for
You Gotta Believe.
Oh, great.
There you go.
Which is the only organization in New York that helps older foster youth find families.
Yeah, that's right. So Seth, Charles Strouse. Let's move right into it.
Okay, we haven't
that's
done
what's
anything.
coming up.
Sure.
Oh, and of course you can see right there at the bottom. If you want to donate, please, to the Entertainment Community Fund, go to starsinthehouse.com. You can get your receipt, forward it to starsinthehouse2020@gmail.com.
Sure. Hold on, David wants this. No, sir, Judy can sit. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Seth Rudetsky.
the information that I know, I got to interview Charles Strouse a couple of times. Hi, Judy.
Judy Kuhn just walked in.
We're going to bring Judy on when we get to our rag segment. So
Yes. So hold on. We're going to get.
Oh,
yes,
no.
So Seth, here, you take this.
Okay.
I'm going to get Wendy.
So sorry.
Hold on. No.
Okay, we're rearranging the studio. Anywho, so Charles moved to New York. He went to Eastman School of Music, just like Judy and I went to Oberlin. He was a classical musician. And he was playing for singers and for dance classes, and he met a stage manager who said he had an idea about writing a musical about a newfangled notion, which was teenagers. Because a lot of people, there have always been teenagers in the world, but the term really wasn't coined till the 50s. So it was a very new thing, or maybe the 40s. But the term teenager was a new thing. So he said, I have an idea of writing a musical about teenagers. Charles Strouse started working on it. They got the book writer, Lee Adams, writing the lyrics. And it was written for Carol Haney, who was Gladys in The Pajama Game. And the jokes about Rose were all about her being Polish. And then Carol Haney, if you don't know, lost her voice. She had to drop out of the production, and they decided to audition Cheetah Rivera. So Cheetah, when we interviewed her, said that, I think his name is Tom Poston. He called Cheetah and he said, I just auditioned for the stupidest show ever. And Cheetah was like, what? He said, Bye Bye Birdie. It's about teenagers. And Cheetah was like, oh my God, I hate teenagers. And they said, yeah, it's about Elvis Presley. And Cheetah was like, oh my God, I hate Elvis Presley. She was not interested in Elvis Presley. Yeah, or Cheetah. So she's like, I'm not interested, period. So she had this great agent named Richard Seff, and he has an incredible book called Supporting Player. It's a great book about, he's basically the Zay League of Broadway. He was Ethel Merman's agent, Cheetah's agent. He introduced John Cantor to Fred Ebb. He's amazing. So Cheetah said to Richard, listen, they're going to play me the score. It's Garrett Champion, Charles Strouse, Lee Adams. She goes, let me just pretend that I love it. And then you'd be like, well, we'll decide later. But she goes, I'll be all positive after we listen to the whole thing because I don't want to, appear like an idiot. Like I'm rude. But of course, the show is stupid. I'm not interested. So Cheetah said they went there, and the plan was after the entire show, she'd be like, I love it. And Richard would be like, we'll see. So cut to, she starts listening to it, and she's like, the show is amazing. And at the end of Act 1, she was like, I love it. And Richard Seff was like, wait, is this real? Is this part of the plan? Like, what's happening? But she did love it. She got cast as Rosie, and it really changed her because before that, it was really groundbreaking because she played Anita in West Side Story, and this was like a pure musical theater role.
Right.
And one of the coolest things about the show, besides Charles Strouse writing music, she said that it really changed Broadway. Something so simple that now we all do, but it's so interesting. It was so forward thinking. Garrett Champion staged the very end. She said normally the end of every musical was like this whole chorus, and the woman would jump on the shoulders of the men, and it'd be like, hooray. But instead, the end of Bye Bye Birdie was just her and Dick Van Dyke, and they would turn their back to the audience and hold hands and walk up stage. And she just said it was groundbreaking because no shows ever ended like that with just two people walking away. So we have a clip. This is Cheetah on the Ed Sullivan Show. This was the song. All the songs were already written for Carol Haney, but this song was added because of Cheetah's character, who was Latina, and Dick Van Dyke's mother hates her and says she's too Latin to marry my son. So this whole song is called Spanish Rose. Oh, there it is. That's it.
Right here.
There it is. So this is Cheetah on the Ed Sullivan Show doing it. Listen how amazing her vibrato is on the second to last note. On a C. Okay, Judy, come watch. You're gonna love this.
We have another very exciting moment from Bye Bye Birdie. Here's one of the great dance numbers with the town Broadway's greatest dancer. Here is Cheetah Rivera in Spanish Rose. Cheetah.
I'm just a Spanish tamale is what they all say. Right off the boat from the tropics far, far away. Which is kind of funny, since where I come from is far Rockaway. Spanish. Okay, May, I'll be Spanish. Right after I've married Alberto. I'll be the toast of Chichi Castanango. And all day long my castanets will stick. I'll hide behind my fan and do the tango. I'll be so Spanish it will make you sick. I'll eat the tacos and the enchilada. I'll drink tequila till I feel no pain. The only song I'll sing will be Granada. I'll be more Espanol than Abbey Lane. So call me the wild Spanish rose, the craziest flower that grows. I'll kick up my heels and see how it feels to be sultry Spanish rose. Behind my mantilla I'll pose the beauty that nobody knows. So regal and cool, exciting and cruel, that's me, Spanish Rose. Mi name Rosita Hernandez. Take me to your bodega. You like me, yes? No? Maybe? Americano, let me give you a bit of advice. To cross Spanish Rose isn't wise. Your match you have found, so don't mess around. Her heart, she is cold like ice. With Albert, I will dance to the bolero. We'll cha-cha in the nicest honky-tonk. He'll wear the cutest moustache and sombrero. My handsome Latin lover from the Bronx. So, now that you've met Spanish love, you'll never forget Spanish love. She'll taunt you, she'll tame you, but what man would blame you for worshipping Spanish love? Not Danish, not British, not Swedish, not Yiddish, but Spanish.
Aww.
That was great. We watched it with Judy too. Isn't that great?
I know. I was just saying that was her first Tony nomination. Was for
Yeah. So for everyone that talks about it's unfair this person wasn't nominated, Cheetah danced the role of Anita. The acting, the comedy, the drama, the singing, the dancing. Not only didn't win the Tony, wasn't nominated for West Side. So you can't cry about so and so when Cheetah did.
Yeah, and it's a role she created that has won actresses not only Tonys but
But two Oscars. Two Oscars and one Tony.
Like,
you know what? She's smiling up there.
That's right. And now she's with Charles.
So the next big show is All American. That beautiful song Once Upon a Time. It's Roberta playing Superman. Linda Lavender and that great You've Got Possibilities.
Yes.
And I'll show you a cute clip. In the 70s, I don't know if you know the story. He was a jingle writer. As so many great people were like Barry Manilow and Alan Menken. And he wrote a jingle for Razzle Root Beer. And they were in the studio recording it. And then they suddenly found out they couldn't use the name Razzle. It was copywritten, but he had all the jingle singers there. So he said, what about Ramblin' Root Beer? Do you remember Ramblin' Root Beer?
Was that a Northeastern thing?
I totally remember it, and I found the commercial.
Okay.
And on top of that, by the way, there's a little clip of Sarah Jessica Parker as Annie in this. It's at the bottom, and there it is. So this is the song that he wrote. This is typical Charles Strouse. It's so melodious, but you also see Sarah as Annie, so it's kind of tip of the hat to his own show. This is by Charles Strouse.
What makes this land terrific? We've got something more. Rodeos, Broadway shows, something more. And a brand new soft drink like you never had before. Ramblin' Root Beer, something more. More luscious, more mellow. Yeah, Ramblin' Root Beer, something more. We got the Super Bowl and rock and roll there, something more. That certain touch in the clutch, something more. And we got the richest, smoothest treat you ever pour. Ramblin' Root Beer, something more. We got the superstars and souped-up cars there, something more. Disco dates on roller skates, something more. And a brand new root beer like you never had before. More creamy, more hearty, more foamy, more zesty, yeah. Ramblin' Root Beer, something more.
I got to go back on screen. There we are. So melodious, right, man?
Oh my gosh, 1 minute.
So he wrote, no one knows he wrote that. And there's another song that a lot of people don't know that he wrote. Talk about your connection with Kate Lear, what she said.
Oh, well, everyone who knows Stars in the House knows Dr. LePuc, and Dr. LePuc's wife is Kate Lear, and her father is Norman Lear. And Those Were the Days is the theme song to All in the Family, and Charles Strouse was the composer of that song. And I asked Kate couldn't be here tonight, but I said, can you give me any insights? So she texted me and she said, well, these are more about, because we have the clip, these are more about like the actual
recording?
The recording. But she said that Archie and Edith performing at the piano was inspired by her dad playing music with his parents at home.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And there was a misinterpretation, I didn't know this, about the line, Gee, our old LaSalle ran great.
Yeah, no one ever understood what the hell they were saying.
Yeah, so they actually re-recorded it several times.
It still sounds crazy.
I know.
Gee,
So
our
that's the best
LaSalle
version.
ran. That's the best version?
Yes, that's the best version.
Essence Patty, what's wrong with my diction? No one knows what you're saying.
But she said, lastly, my father loved Charles and that they remained friends for decades. And she said he would be saddened by his death and sends her love.
So we have it. This is the clip. And of course, two
such
musical
an
theater.
iconic.
Yeah, Norman Lear, of course, loved musical theater. So both Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton, musical theater stars.
Yeah.
And this song, this is also, again, like I was saying with Ramblin' Root Beer, a minute-long commercial. This is when TV shows had theme songs. This song was so famous.
Yeah.
So, David, let's see a little. Those were the. Oh, do we not have it? Which one? Those were the days. All in the Family. Oh, there it is. Let's hear it.
From Television City in Hollywood.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
And you knew when you were there.
Dance for girls and men, women. Mister, we could use a man like Herbert Hoover again. Didn't need no welfare state.
Everybody pulled his weight.
G.R.O. LaSalle ran great. Those were the days.
God, that's horrific.
Yes.
Okay, one more show from the 70s, then we'll move on. He wrote the score, again with Lee Adams, to Applause, which is the musical version of All About Eve. There's a great book about it. It's called All About Eve, and it talks about the movie, well, the short story and the movie and the musical, and a la Wicked, nothing from Applause could have only been in the movie. It had to have been in the short story and the movie. That's why, I don't know if you know, but Wicked can't have anything just from the Wizard of Oz movie. That's why they can't have ruby slippers. They have to call them jeweled shoes. They weren't allowed to have anything
And
that
the
was
same thing
only...
was with Applause.
And the same thing with Applause.
Wow.
So they couldn't have anything that was only in the movie. It had to be from the short story. And it's great. It's all in this book. But regardless, he wrote it, and Lauren Bacall was the star. And she wasn't a singer, and I was friends with Don Pippin, the original music director, and Lauren Bacall said, "Come to my voice lesson and tell me what you think." So she sang, and Don said that he said to her, which I love, he said, "You sound like a moose, but a musical moose." Meaning her just tone was awful, but she was musical. She knew how to phrase things, and that's where Lauren Bacall was able to have this lead playing Margot Channing. But Bonnie Franklin wound up being the breakout star, another Norman Lear person. Norman Lear
Around the same time.
Around the same time as All in the Family. So he wound up plucking Bonnie Franklin, putting her in One Day at a Time. But Bonnie told me that the big song in the show was not Lauren Bacall's song. It was Applause, which is Bonnie's song. And Bonnie said, which I didn't know, but she said if it had been a Merman musical, the song would have been cut. Oh. Because Merman never wanted herself not to be in the best song, but she said Lauren Bacall knew the importance of the musical being good and allowed her to have this great number. So this is the end from the Tony Awards of the big title song that Charles Strouse wrote. It is so melodious. He was so good at melodies. And this is Bonnie Franklin, and you can see, I don't know if you can tell, but Sammy Williams, one of the backup dancers, the original Paul from A Chorus Line, who wound up winning a Tony Award 5 years later, and Nicholas Dante, whose story it was that inspired the story of Paul, who's the writer of A Chorus Line, and Mitzi Hamilton, the original Val, who didn't get to play the role because she couldn't sing well enough, Pam Blair. But this is the kind of stuff I'm obsessed with. Anyway, here is Applause.
Judy Kuhn's here,
Judy Kuhn is loving my. Well, I love that kind of Broadway stuff.
We do too. We love it.
This is the end of Applause. Okay, this is the very end of the number. Hit it.
Okay.
That shiz. Isn't that a great number?
Yes.
Okay, so before we bring on Bill Berloni, we should talk a little bit about Annie, which of course is the musical that Bill's going to come on virtually.
Yes.
So Annie, Charles Strouse told me that Martin Charnin came to him and said, we want you to write the music for this. He's going to write the lyrics because Charles had worked on It's a Bird, It's a Plane, Superman, which was based on a comic strip. So he said, you'd understand it. When the Linda Lavin did, which is based on the Superman comic strip. So Charles said originally they didn't want a child, Annie. They wanted Bernadette Peters to play the role, but to be like an adult.
She was young, but she wasn't a kid, right?
And I think it was going to be maybe about an adult. They probably thought no kid can ever lead a show because no kid had ever really led a show.
No kid had led a show before.
Well, you know what? Oliver. So I guess they had, but I don't know. They didn't trust it, but thank God they did, and Andrea got it. And I'll play this.
Well, you know what though? Did they still have the rules? Judy, you've performed in London. Has that been? My point is, was this the first time with Annie that a kid played the role? That one kid played the role title exactly because in London it probably was 4 Olivers. I'm sure
you know
even
what?
then.
I don't know. I think that
No?
role came later because on Broadway, I think it was only one Oliver. I think it was only Mark Lester. But I know what you mean because nowadays, I don't know if you know, but anytime a show comes over, the rules are different now. But I don't think it was in the 60s. But now when shows come over like Billy Elliot and Matilda, they keep the same thing where they have 3 stars playing it. But I think in the old days they didn't. Of course, Andrea loved doing 8 shows a week. So before we get to Bill Berlone, you can tell David, you can tell Bill if he wants to log on. I'll play one of the gorgeous songs from Annie. This is from the time that, actually, you know what? I'll play the first song they ever wrote. This is Hard Knock Life. So I'll play this first. This is the first song, and Charles said this is the only song in the show where the lyrics came first. So it was Martin Turner wrote the lyrics, and then Charles wrote the music. But after that, I guess either music came first or they wrote it together.
And it was literally the first song they wrote together.
It was the first song they wrote together, and the only one where the lyrics came first. Yeah,
Wow.
both.
Okay.
And I also know that Charles said he wanted the children to be suffering, to sound like they're suffering, and that's why he put the key so crazily high, so they don't quite instead of treated like it's so hard on their voices because they wanted them to sound like they were having a breakdown. So this is around 1982. They brought on 4 different Annies, and they all sang a number from the show. And Alison Smith, who was playing Annie at the time, who then went on to do Kate and Ally, you love, and West Wing, sang Hard Knock Life, and she has to hit those crazy high notes. So this is the first song they ever wrote together, with Charles playing the piano.
It's the hard knock life for us. It's the hard knock life for us. Steady treated, we get tricked. Steady kisses, we get kicked. It's the hard knock life. Got no folks to speak of, so it's the hard knock road. We hold cotton blankets, ditto wool, empty bellies. It's the hard knock life. Don't it feel like the wind is always howling? Don't it seem like there's never any light? Once a day, don't you want to throw the towel in? It's easier than putting up a fight. Oh, Santa Claus we never see. Santa Claus, what's that? Who's he? No one cares for you, a smidge, when you're in an orphanage. It's the hard knock life.
Yes, it is.
It's the hard knock life.
Yes, it is.
It's the hard knock life.
Oh my gosh.
She sounds so great, belting those crazy high notes.
And to bring it all in the family, Allison has been on our show because we did a Kate and Ally, and she's with Annie. But her daughter, Adeline, volunteered for us when we did our 5th anniversary
Stars in the House.
Stars in the House in March.
That. Yeah,
That's
I love
right.
Adeline.
So there you go.
So here's some more Annie. So, it opened just the kind of interesting backstory to me. Andrea McArdle was the first Annie, the first girl to audition, period. Sing Johnny One Note. She didn't get the role of Annie. She got the role of the toughest orphan, Pepper, and Kristen Vigard got the role of Annie. But Kristen Vigard was really sweet and had this very, very sweet voice. And as Andrea said, they cast Oliver, but they wanted the Artful Dodger. They realized that Annie was really tough. And Kristen Vigard moved to be the alternate, the standby, and Andrea McArdle got the role of Annie. She moved up to Annie. And the show opened on Broadway, and Sarah Jessica Parker went to go see it. And she was loving it. And weirdly, her father saw how much she loved it. I don't know if he was protecting her, but he said to her, quote unquote, "You're not Annie material." Anyway, that's a bizarre story. But Sarah Jessica Parker wound up getting cast as one of the orphans, understudying Andrea. She's, to this day, the way Sarah talks about Andrea.
I mean, we did a benefit in 2016, and Andrea and Sarah did it together. And I remember seeing them afterward going down 44th Street, and you could imagine them as little girls. And as famous as Sarah is worldwide, you know that she looks up to Andrea still.
It's unbelievable, the reverence that Sarah has for Andrea. She just was the best. So Sarah got the role. She took over the role, but then as soon as she took over the role, she started to grow. So as they were basically fitting her costume, they said, by the way,
It's the hard knock life.
So as they were fitting her for a costume, they said to Sarah, "Ooh, by the way, we're already looking for another Annie, but don't worry about it."
Oh my God!
It's like, how do you not worry about it?
Undermined as an actor every performance.
And as a kid actor, you hate growing. It's so devastating. But I said to her, I said, "Weren't you upset when you had to leave the role?" And this was during an interview I did with her, and she said, "Wait, how did she phrase it? Oh yeah, she said no because they dyed my hair red, and I was just so happy to go back to my dark brunette color. And then she said, I mean blondish brown, which is hilarious, busted. But anyway, here is Sarah, and you could just see like she's so likable in the role. Yeah. She's such an amazing actress. I think at this point she was the oldest Annie. I think she was 14 when she did it, or maybe even 15. She was an old Annie because Andrea was 13. But this is her doing in that part of that amazing special of all four Annies. This is Sarah sounding fabulous. Here we go. And look how great her acting is.
Together at last, together forever. We're tying a knot they never can sever. I don't need sunshine now to turn my skies to blue. I don't need anything but you. I wrapped you around my cute little finger. I made like a song. I made you the singer. And what's that back to you always? Ba-ba-boo, ba-ba-ba, anything but you. Yesterday was plain awful. You can say that again. Yesterday was plain awful. But that's not now, that's then. I'm poor as a mouse. He's richer than Midas. But nothing on earth could ever divide us. And if tomorrow I'm an apple seller too, I don't need anything, anything, anything. I don't need anything but you.
So we were saying, so likable, so natural, so real. I can see why she got the part.
God, she's so good.
Yeah.
And then Charles Strouse and Martin Charnin wrote this amazing song for Dorothy Loudon. So Andrew McCardle told me that the Miss Hannigan that originally played it before Dorothy Loudon, she said basically was just sort of be hated by the audience. But when Dorothy took over, she became a character that you loved to hate.
So Dorothy didn't do it at good speed.
No. And interesting.
Wow.
And then Andrea said, like, it became, this woman that you love to hate because there is something so lovable about her, even though she's, she's so evil.
Yeah.
And they wrote this song for Dorothy, and Dorothy had a string. She'd been working forever, but she never had a hit. And this was the show that gave her the hit. And she told Andrea, because Andrea has ADD.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Andrea's ADD like I do.
Yes.
And she said to Andrea about being on stage, she said, if you ever move when I have a laugh line, I will kill you. And Andrea got the message, and then they were both up for a Tony Award.
Yes.
And you can imagine if Andrea had won, it would not have been cool. But Dorothy won it. Yes. And this is the number that they did.
Patty LuPone and Jennifer Simard being in the same category for company.
For company.
Just saying.
Can you imagine? Not cool.
Jennifer's like, please, don't call my name. Don't call my name.
Meanwhile, Judy Kuhn and Frances Ruffelle, and when Frances won, Judy was very gracious. We'll discuss that on the 86 Tonys. But here is the number. It's Robert Fitch, who's brilliant, and Barbara Irwin and Dorothy Loudon. And the choreography, speaking of Cheetah Rivera, is what's his name?
He's right there.
Oh my God.
We have the poster right here. Peter
Gennaro.
Yes.
Peter Gennaro was a choreographer, and he really just found out what they do well and just did it brilliantly. Dorothy's crazy pelvic thrusting. It won her the Tony Award. This is another great Charles Strouse song. So this is the three of them, and this is the brilliance. Okay, so here we go. This is them on the Tony Awards. Now, by the way, this is also on the Tony Awards. Didn't just do a 2-minute segment from a show because they had to have a pop star on singing a medley. This is when they did 8-minute segments. Long. They did 3 full numbers. Yeah. They did You Never Feel Dressed Without a Smile, and Easy Street, and Tomorrow. So this is Easy Street, another brilliant Charles Strouse number with Martin Charnin, of course.
Ah, Rooster. How did the two of us ever end up like this on the skids?
I remember the way our sainted mother would sit and croon us her lullaby.
She'd say, kids, there's a place that's like no other. You got to get there before you die.
You don't get there by playing from the rule book.
Ah, nah, you stack the aces.
You you load the dice. Mother dear, oh, we know you're down there listening. How can we follow your sweet advice to easy street, where you sleep till noon. Easy street, better get there soon.
Talk about living the good life. You know that kid Annie? Oh, God, I hate that rotten orphan. She's gonna be adopted by Oliver Warbucks. The Oliver Warbucks, the millionaire? The billionaire, you dumb. She's gonna live in that big mansion up on Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue?
Yeah.
He don't live on Fifth Avenue.
He don't. Where does he live? Oh, yeah.
Easy street. Easy street. Where the rich folks play. Move them feet. Oh, easy street. When you get there, stay. Easy street. Easy street. And he is lucky. Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree. All right. Easy street. Easy street. That's where we're gonna be. Let's go.
I have seen that clip so many times with you, and it never gets old.
And you still laugh.
Oh my God, I still laugh.
You dumb.
Well, it's the combination of brilliant choreography, brilliant performances, and brilliant music and lyrics. I mean, when you have all of those,
It is
it's like
everything.
it's magic, and you
And I want to know what memories it brings back for this man who was there, which I can't believe. Here is the incredible original dog trainer himself, Bill Berloni.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, guys.
Bill, what's it like seeing that number?
You know, we've lost so many friends in that company. It really brings back memories, good memories.
Oh, man. I'll go in, David. You want me to go in?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. We're going to go in closer. So, Bill, we're talking about Charles Strouse. You got to be there when he was creating this show. Like, what would it be like when a new number would go in? I mean, where were you, in the dog kennel? Like, where the hell were you?
No, you know, when I got to the Goodspeed Opera House, I had never been around a composer and really heard music being made. And I remember being amazed. You know, how can we all talk, we all use words, you know, but who hears notes in their head and puts them in orders in ways that make beautiful music? So I was always most in awe of Charles for that gift to be able to tell so many emotions with the melodies he heard in his head. And I would sit there in the rehearsals and be completely amazed because I had never heard it, but what I was hearing was really a sign of greatness.
We just honored you at the Goodspeed Opera House. And can you, for the people that don't know, I don't know if Judy Kuhn, she's here, I don't know if she knows the story. Can you tell everybody how you found Sandy?
Sure. I became an apprentice at the Goodspeed Opera House after high school because I wanted to be an actor be around professional actors. And my second season there as an unpaid apprentice, they were doing the first production of Annie. And they couldn't afford a dog trainer at that time. And everybody on the paid staff threatened to quit if they had to do it. So they needed someone they could trick into taking on the job. And fortunately, our producer, Michael Price at the time, recognized how much I wanted my equity card and offered me my equity card in a partner show if I would find and train the dog for the new show. And I went on a search for a sandy-colored mutt, ended up at the Connecticut Humane Society, and found him the day before he was going to be put to sleep. Went back the next morning and got him, and that's how we got the original Sandy. And
why were they going to put him to sleep? The shelter was overcrowded?
Yes, they were only kept alive for 7 days, and if they weren't adopted, they were put to sleep.
That was the 70s, kind of all over.
Yeah.
It was very different then.
How did you know how to train a dog? I mean, by the way, I still don't know how to train a dog.
As Bill knows, because we call him all the time.
Well, yes. We've had our FaceTime sessions, training.
We always beg you for advice.
Yes.
I grew up on a farm as an only child, and my early memories of childhood was my cat, my dog, and my rabbit. And I see pictures of myself like when I was 3 or 4 with these animals out in the yard, and I must have learned how to play their games so that I wouldn't be alone. So the idea of being other-centered, about thinking about what other creatures are feeling and learning what they like and then using that to play with them is really what I used as the basis for the training. If we could find a way to make Sandy happy or the dogs happy and they want to do it, they would do it every night.
Bill, before you met Charles, I'm assuming you met Charles at Goodspeed. This was the first time you met him, right?
Yep.
Were you already a fan? Did you know Bye Bye Birdie and his other shows before Annie?
I think the only show I probably knew was Bye Bye Birdie, and was impressed with knowing somebody who had written a Broadway show and a movie. I have to say that when I met Martin Charnin, Tom Meehan, and Charles Strouse, they were all married men with kids. And I'm only 7 years older than Andrea McCardle. So they lumped me in with the kids. So the entire 50 years I was with them, 49 years, I was always Billy to them. And they protected me as if I was one of their children and kept me in the family. I did every production they did of Annie from the beginning till the end. So I'll never forget that, the fact that they had such love for the kids. And they certainly shared it with me.
Andrea still calls you Billy. It's so funny because I don't know anyone else that calls you Billy, but the original Annie Core.
Well, I was just thinking because it made me realize, Bill, that a lot of people don't realize that the creative team has a say not only in casting but a lot of major decisions. And I would think you, as the dog trainer for the Stars dog, was a decision that they could have said, no, we want someone who really is.
After Goodspeed, they could have dropped you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my point.
Well, and the story that I heard was when Mike Nichols and the new producers for Broadway came along, it was Martin Charnin who insisted that I do Sandy. And they were a little skeptical. And in fact, they called me in the office and sent me to a professional trainer in New York City to learn how to train. And I did one lesson with them and walked away and said to them, I'm not going to train with any force. So if you want another trainer, go with them. So they trusted.
They wanted aggressive. The trainer wanted you to aggressively train.
Yeah. Wow. I'll never forget it. I went to his business on the east side and he took Sandy, walked down the street. And then he turned quickly and Sandy kept moving and he pulled him and he literally flipped over. And then he just stood there and shook and then obviously followed him because he didn't want to be hurt. And I just took him and walked away.
Sweet little Sandy. Yeah. Good for you, but I love that they listened to you. Yeah. What was the hardest trick that you'd have to train Sandy?
There's a cue in the show in NYC when they're walking through New York City where at the end they wanted Sandy to come out on stage by himself, sit, look around, and then continue off stage. That was the hardest one because there was nobody holding a leash. There was nobody 6 feet next to him to tell him what to do.
How did you do it?
they put it in Washington at the Kennedy Center. It wasn't at Goodspeed. And, Sandy would come to me. He would certainly come, and he would stop, but he wouldn't always stop in the exact same place. And they said to me, he has to be center in the light. And so one day I put a biscuit there, and he came out and ate it and sat down. Well, he chewed the biscuit. So I had to find something else that was inexpensive, but he could eat quickly. And it was at the deli around the corner that we found some bologna. So it became known as the bologna cross. Cast member at the end would drop a piece of bologna on the mark, and then he'd find it, lick it, and then look around and come off.
I was going to say bologna, like David just said. So wait, Bill, would you be off stage, like saying like this to him? Like, how did he know to come out?
I mean, this would be the hand signal to come, and the flat of my hand when he saw that meant stop. And then
you were there 8 times a week? You were in the wings 8 times a week?
Yep. For the first 2 years. Yeah.
Oh my God. You got to hear that? Oh my God. Okay. Well, we're going to show tomorrow from the Tony Awards. Was that hard to do with Andrea because Sandy was in a different theater? Was he freaked out being there?
Yeah. I mean, it was the first time we performed outside of the Alvin Theater. No, I take that back. We did the Today Show, but it was one of the first times he was in front of another audience. And, I remember we were at the Schubert Theater, and we were all in the dressing room under the stage, and a chorus line was there, and we were with all the costumes from a chorus line there, and we were all just Broadway geeks soaking it in. So then to go upstairs and perform on that stage was just so exciting. And he was he's looking off stage at me like, am I supposed to be here? But
that's so cool. I didn't know it was at the Schubert Theater. It was at the Chorus Line Theater. That's so cool. All right, so here's McCardle, 13 years old. Bill, you're what? 20 years old?
20, yeah.
Oh my God. And how old was Sweet Sandy at this moment?
He would have been 2.5, two.
It's a good boy. Okay, let's see if he handles it okay. This is Tomorrow Tony's.
So that's you, ain't they? Well, I'm not gonna let them give me or you. And don't worry, I'll take care of you. And everything's gonna be fine, boy. For the both of us. If not today, well, the sun'll come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. Just thinking about tomorrow clears away the cobwebs and the sorrow till there's none. When I'm stuck with a day that's gray, I'm lonely. I just stick out my chin and grin and say, oh, the sun'll come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. Come what may, tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow, you're always a day away. Tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow, you're always a
Boy.
Oh, so sweet.
Oh, what does it feel like to see Sweet Sandy?
Looking at that, I know he was looking at me. And so it brought back the feelings of that love that we had for each other. And Andrea was always a good sport. Whenever he would screw up, she would just keep going. And
she loved that boy.
She loved that dog.
We were two things I want to say. So the first thing is that Charles told me is that when Andrea was on the street, she would have to go back to the orphanage, and there was a set change, and they needed a song to cover the set change. It was like these sliding panels. And when the song was first done, Charles was like, wow, the audience loves the set change. He didn't know that Tomorrow was such an amazing song. He thought they were applauding like the panel sliding. So who the hell knew because it's a shit song? And Andrea also told me that Barbara Streisand came backstage and she was like, I want to record your song. I want to ask permission. And Andrea was like, I didn't know you have to ask permission for songs. I've been singing your songs for years. Anyway, I love that. Barbara's like, idiot. Hey, Billy, tell everybody before we go about the bronze statue or the whatever that you had wanted initially for Sandy's ashes.
I had always envisioned having some sort of memorial for him. And it wasn't until I was in my 50s that I saved enough money and had commissioned an artist to make a life-size sculpture of him. And we spent a lot of time. We used pictures and measurements and created this beautiful statue that sits in front of our yard. And he greets everybody who comes. And I put his ashes into it. And so, I call this the house that Sandy built. So he's here. And then to be surprised with a replica of it at the Goodspeed Opera House was amazing. Just a wonderful feeling.
Your wife told me they contacted the original artist and they replicated that statue, and now it sits at the Goodspeed Opera House. David, let me show everybody the statue. This is now the front of the Goodspeed Opera House. So Sandy will always greet. Isn't that wonderful, Bill? Look how beautiful, sweet Sandy.
I have to tell you a story about Charles. About 10 years ago, he called me, Billy, my wife wants a dog. I don't want a dog. I've never had a dog. I don't want a dog. Will you talk to her? And so Barbara called me and she wanted a little white dog, and it was something small that was hypoallergenic. And I found this beautiful dog in a shelter. And I remember bringing it over to their apartment, and Charles was looking at it, didn't know how to react to it. But within 2 months, that dog was on his lap all the time. And Barbara told me that he cried more when the dog passed away than she did. So he really had a soft heart. And, it was, all his kids were moved out and they were lonely. And, I was able to find them a dog for the latter part of their life.
Oh, that's so nice.
I mean, because of Charles, you have your career, man.
I know. All of them, all three of them. I mean, because I'm sure it wasn't just Martin who said, we want Billy.
Right.
They would have all had to sign off on it. And they had their faith in me. So
God, that's so wonderful. Well, Bill, we love you. We'll be in touch because our new dog is driving us crazy. So we're going to ask for tips. She's a good girl, but
absolutely
out of control.
Well, thank you for honoring Charles. I know he would love it. He would, and of course, he'd want to be here and sing his own songs because that's what he loves to do. But so he's up for playing right now. So thank you.
Sing. Thank you, Billy.
Thanks, Bill.
Peace out. See you next time. Love you.
Bye. Well, and someone else who was in the room with Charles Strouse is in the room with us right now. Please welcome.
Exactly.
The second guest of Stars in the House, now here on show number 500 and something, Judy Kuhn.
Do we have a microphone or are we going to share?
The rain is not good for my...
The rain.
You can hold the mic.
Okay. Hi, James.
Judy Kuhn, you were a part of what many people say is Charles Strauss's best score ever, which was Rags, written by him and Stephen Schwartz on lyrics.
I mean, one could say that I'm not, that I'm biased, but I do think it's his most beautiful score. I mean, it's really deep. It's deep, that score. And
What was it like? James and I was wondering, like, when someone says, like, oh, here's your song, the plunky, what was it like to be there?
Well, actually, when I auditioned for the show,
Rags, by the way.
Rags. When I auditioned for the show, they wanted me to come in and sing that song, the title song, or a version of it, because it couldn't have been the whole song. Right. But and so I went. They had to teach it to me. They had just written it.
So who taught it to you?
Or I guess they hadn't just written it because they had already done a workshop, which I was not involved in. So I went to Charles's apartment.
Oh, wow.
I know that probably wouldn't happen now, but it was him and Stephen were there.
Whoa.
And Charles sat down at the piano and played the song. And can't remember if did he sing it or did Stephen sing it? I think
they both sing.
Maybe it was Charles. I think I made a recording of it, but God knows where that might be right now.
God.
And
What did you
that's
think?
how, and they sent me home with the recording so I could learn the song. The whole thing just petrified me. It's like, oh my God, these people who I've grown up listening to. And it was, it was kind of crazy. It was, I kept going, okay, I can't believe I'm in this room with these two legends.
Wow.
And so I learned the song and I went in and I did the audition, and I could tell from their faces that I got that job.
Really? That's good to know. That exciting. And then that was like you had just begun belting like recently when you got it.
No, I was doing The Mystery of Edwin Drood at the time when I was understudying Patty Cohenauer and Betty Buckley.
High soprano and belting.
So, so I was doing some of that already.
But Judy, once you, I'll share the mic with you. So there were some songs written, but were all the songs written? So when you went into rehearsal, or were some written for you once they knew you were in the show?
Oh God, I don't remember. I think a lot of the score was pretty much done.
Okay.
But what was it like hearing like Teresa Strada too for the first time, and Lonnie Price? Like,
it was heaven being in that room. Heaven.
I did the talent level and
Terry Mann
who's doing our cruise to the Canary Islands, not to promote it, but just saying.
And
Larry Kurt
and Larry Kurt
and Marsha Lewis. 6 sunny rooms.
Yes. Wait. Who else?
Who are we forgetting?
Anyway,
Joanna Glushak.
It was an incredible cast, and so at that point in my career, just being in those rooms and watching all those people, it was like I learned so much.
We're going to actually do a live song from Rags, but of course, this show would not be complete if Judy didn't tell her famous Tony Award story, which not everybody knows.
I should have been prepared for this.
You should know that, Judy.
I should know this by now.
So I will show the beginning.
You should know better.
First, let's watch the beginning of the number, and then we'll give all the scoop. So I'm going to go back to media, and then we will stop it at the appropriate moment. So let's just first watch. Where's the first Rags?
The first 2 clips, and then there's one at the end.
Rags. Oh, the first 2 clips. But why can't I scroll up? Hold on. Wait. Kuhn. Oh. Okay. Well, actually, we'll say this part first. So your Rags lasted a solid weekend, unfortunately, which is devastating because, again, best score ever.
Do you want me to tell that story?
Oh, I'd love this is how people find it. Now, by the way, this is our dark version of this. By the way, we recently know 2 people we know were like, oh, let me just check my chart, and literally on their my chart it said they had cancer. It sounds we should be laughing, but literally before the doctor told them, it's like, let me just check in.
I'm never checking my chart.
Okay,
ever again.
Oh, let me just quickly look. So 2 people we know.
24 hours.
24 hours they had to wait for the doctor.
Actually talk to a doctor.
So this is the lesser version of that story, but it's very similar in terms of shock
this
value.
is much better. Now you're prepared to not be so sad about this story.
Not sad.
So, Rags was my first featured role in a Broadway show. It was very exciting. We had our opening night. So exciting. The next day, I was getting ready to go to the theater. I was cleaning my apartment. I had the vacuum cleaner on, and I had the news on, and the Rags logo came up, and I thought, oh, how exciting, a review. I was very naive. And I turned the volume up, and the person on the TV looked me straight in the eye and said, Rags, which opened last night at the Mark Hellinger Theater, will close tomorrow after 4 performances.
Nobody contacted you first.
No.
Your doctor didn't call you.
No. And then the company went in and we were told to meet on stage. And then the producers apologized for having sent out a press release without informing us. Anyway, it was...
But because it closed, you wound up getting...
But yes, I had auditioned for Les Miserables. And after the show closed, I got called back in. I wouldn't have been available had Rags been a hit. So I got called back in, and I did another audition and got cast as Cosette.
But so both you and Terry, I just put it together.
And Joanna Glushak.
Oh my God! All 3 went from
3
Rags.
3 of us from Rags got cast in Les Mis.
No, that either, James. Wow. It's so funny. I forgot Terry was in it. So both musicals wound up being up for Best Musical. I mean, it only lasted 4 performances, but an amazing score. So Judy was featured in Les Mis. So here is Judy sounding amazing in Les Mis. Let's watch a little bit. With, by the way, Francis Ruffel.
Les Mis happened
after.
Yeah.
After. So it did happen after, but let's just watch.
After on the Tony Awards, yeah.
But this is just to cleanse the palate and show the high soprano.
These men who seem to know my crime will surely come a second time one day more.
How can I live when we are apart? Tomorrow you'll be worlds away, and yet with you my world has started.
Brava! So both musicals are up for Tony Awards. So let's first watch Judy's performance of Rags, and then we'll give the backstory. So this is the title song, which she was not supposed to sing on the Tony Awards, but Teresa Stratus dropped out the last second, and you did.
And I hadn't done the show for almost a year.
That's you. So here's the beginning of Rags, and we'll tell the whole story. But it's Dick Latessa. You're both recent immigrants, and it's Dick Latessa saying America's going to be amazing, and you're like, really? Because I'm not making any money, and my life is horrific. So I've got a belt about it. Here we go.
Bella! Open your eyes, Bella. Just take a breath.
Please don't tell me that again. Don't tell me how it all belongs to me. Just take a breath, Bella. Not outdoors, Papa. Every time I take a breath, I gag. Open your eyes, Bella. No, open yours, Papa. Mine are open wide, and let me tell you what I see.
Get back in the house.
Rags. Rags. This land of freedom we had to run to, and now we're free, just like everyone, to wear rags. It's all day seeing them, all day smelling them, all day listening to peddlers selling them. Rags! Rags! I live in rags, and so I ride in style. All the while, sewing, see us sewing hags. We turn to hags, it happens bit by bit. Picture it, Papa. There I sit, sewing buttons on rags. Dreams, you gave me dreams of such a golden place.
All your dreams, they will come true.
Dreams, you gave me dreams of such a golden place.
All your dreams,
Silk and lace,
will come true.
milk and honey.
Okay. Judy's watching it in a panic. So go back to the beginning. You're in the audience.
Okay, I was nominated for Les Mis. It was my first Tony nomination, which was very exciting, but not as exciting or terrifying as the fact that I was going to perform twice, never having performed on live TV. Wow. So I was told that my category would be first, and I would start by sitting in my seat. Then when that category was done, they would come and get me, bring me backstage so I could get dressed for Rags. And then, yeah. So I was so nervous about performing, and I knew I wasn't going to win that Tony Award. So anyway.
Did you know Frances was going to win?
No, I just knew. I was shocked that Cosette got nominated at all. Okay. I mean, I did have a little panic when they were saying the names of the nominees because I hadn't thought about what I would do if I won. So then I started going, oh, please don't say my name. Please don't say my name. Okay. Anyway, so, which they didn't. So then, you know, the program went on. And of course, you don't know because it's live TV and it's not like you rehearse the show, you rehearse your number. I didn't know how long there was until I would be on.
You didn't have like an order?
It could be 10 minutes or it could be 2 hours. I didn't know. So
And why were you nervous about singing Rags? Because it wasn't the full number, right?
Right. Yes, good point. It was a very long number in the show with a whole dance part, and they cut it down to 3 minutes. And they kept changing the cut. So, yeah.
And you hadn't done the show in a year.
And I hadn't done the show in a year. So all I wanted to do after my category was just get backstage, get changed, go over it, and feel good about what I had to do. And so the first commercial break came, and I looked around.
Because someone was going to come take you.
Someone was going to come get me and take me backstage. The next commercial break came. I looked around. Nobody came. Meanwhile, I'm getting more and more nervous and panicked, and I don't know how much time I have. And it just kept happening until I couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
And I just thought, I got to get myself backstage. So I went.
Full costume, like you had
Yes, and wig and mics and my hair had to, it was like, it's a whole thing. So I just kind of snuck around the theater looking for the way backstage and hoping that I didn't get caught on camera. And I got backstage and some PAs looked at me and said, "Oh my God, where have you been?" And I was like, and they took me into the dressing room and they got me dressed so fast. And suddenly I was in the wings watching James Earl Jones accept his Tony Award. And I was on like that. I mean, I came so close to having, I think it was Angela Lansbury, introduce the number and saying, "Here with the number from Rags, Dick Latessa and Judy Kuhn," and be sitting in my seat.
Can you imagine? That really could have
It would have been
live.
So I had nightmares about that for a while. But anyway, so I went out there and I got to the place where I said to myself, "This is the cut." And then I listened. I was like, the orchestra's not with me. Then I remembered that the orchestra was recorded, so it was my mistake. And I still was. Then I realized what I had done, and I just repeated a thing. Because there was this little bridge that they took out, and then they decided to put it back in, and I forgot that they put it back in.
It's supposed to be, "Oh, Papa, was it so necessary?"
Anyway, dear beloved Dick Latessa just went with me.
And it's, no, I watched this. I went to Oberlin, as Judy knows. My friend Tim Cross and I would go to the Oberlin Library and take out our VCR tape and watch this number over and over again. And I never, ever noticed that you repeat the same 8 bars twice. We were just like, I guess that's the song.
Well, also, what my thought was, because I was recording the awards, because there was no such thing as YouTube.
Right.
And I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be on my videotape forever. Of course, I didn't know it'd also be on the internet forever.
And every show I ever do with you, we be talking about it.
Right.
So this is you'll now watch it again. But by the way, spot the quick recovery, how Judy just goes back to it. And Judy, I know I keep asking the boring question, but like, what does it feel like to hit those last 3 notes and go, this sound is coming out of me? That in her, like, do you go, I can't believe how good this sounds?
No.
Why?
Because Charles Strouse and Stephen Schwartz wrote such a good song that it was so actable and singable, and it just was a pleasure to do it.
But don't you hear yourself and go, oh my God, that's amazing. I don't get it. James, wouldn't you, if you sounded like that, wouldn't you just be constantly going, I can't believe I sound like Judy Kuhn? Okay. Anyway, just watch the recovery, watch the brilliance, and just know that Judy did not start belting. This is 1986. When did you begin? You were soprano up until what year? Only soprano, only head voice.
Actually, I was doing summer stocks, and actually there's a Stephen Schwartz relationship to this, because it was the New London Barn Playhouse where he went. He was like an intern, or I don't know, he spent a summer there. He started writing Godspell on the piano in the basement of that theater. And I was rehearsing with the music director.
Godspell again all those years later?
No, wasn't Godspell. I was doing tintypes, and I played Emma Goldman. And it was that, why am I that, it was that Jonah Man song.
Yes, great song.
And there he was playing that piano that Stephen Schwartz had played. He told me that, and I thought that was really cool. And I was singing it, and I was a classically trained soprano. And he said, "Do you think you can belt that note?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And then he kind of tried to explain to me what it meant, and I tried it, and he was like, "Yes, that's it."
Wow. So what year is that?
1981 or 82.
So 4
Maybe
years
82.
before this, she's like, what's belting?
Wow.
And then this happens on the 20 Awards. That is crazy. So here we go. You're gonna flip out. So watch the verse, how it happens twice. Watch how Judy's eyes glaze over, and then watch how she saves it. And also how Dick Latessa goes with her. This is brilliant. Here we go.
Come true. Dreams, you gave me dreams.
and see.
And now the dreams
Time,
that
things
flow.
take time.
Use your eyes, Papa.
Give it time.
No more lines, Papa, leave me alone. Here's where the beauty is, where the party is. See that handsome gent, look how smart he is, dancing by in his fancy clothes, and he sneers at me down his perfect nose, and his hair is clean and his skin is clear, and he wonders what is she doing here, and he turns his back and the rest do too, and I want to scream I'm the same as you, but it isn't true, I'm just one more Jew in her.
And then I went off stage and said, "Oh my God, did you hear that? Did you hear the mistake I made? Did you hear that?" And some PA came over to me and said, "You don't have time for this. We have to get you changed." And they put me in a quick change booth and put me in my Cosette.
Dream until
Yes. So, yeah.
Here's Seth, I have a question.
Yes, honey, take it away.
So I have two questions, Judy, before you sing and before we close out Stars in the House. You've worked with a lot of, that was one of your first shows, but you've worked with a lot of composers since then. What do you think sets Charles apart, or what made him unique?
Yeah, good question.
You know, he had so much charm and so much wit as a person, and I think you really feel that in his music. And he writes for actors and he writes for the moment, you know. So it's always so seamless, you know, singing his songs. They feel like it feels completely organic that character needs that song to express or work out express what they need to express or work out the problem that they're working out. You know, it was so natural.
He writes for the character, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really the style of the character that's so interesting. Now I'm thinking about every single song, and it so sounds like those people. That's so fascinating. As opposed to there's certain writers, and you're kind of writing for yourself, and then everyone sings kind of a song that's really written for the writer. That's really interesting, Judy.
And also, you know, I didn't know about the lyric coming first.
Yeah.
But he really knew how to he knew how to write for the lyric. You know what I mean? It was nothing ever felt forced.
Yeah.
Well, then the second thing I was going to say, and I don't know if you have insight on this or not, but do you know if Charles thought that was Rags his favorite score of his?
I don't know. I wouldn't have asked.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it would be like choosing between your children, I would guess. But
I would think watching your performance, and I've seen that clip many, many times with Seth, but I would think that perhaps there was a certain passion, this is just a theory, because it was so personal.
Yeah, I would guess that he would say it was probably the most personal show he wrote, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, for all three of them, they were writing about what they knew, you know?
Yeah.
They were writing their own stories in a way.
Right.
So
it's like Bye Bye Birdie was of its time, you know, the Ed Sullivan Show and all that. Annie was from a comic strip, all those brilliant shows.
Right.
But Rags was...
It was about the people that they came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two immigrants.
All right.
I was just looking for I was looking for an email from Charles because I wrote to him about how much I loved Rags, and I was trying to find his response, but he wrote me back. He was so sweet. And when you're talking about Bye Bye Birdie, I forgot the one thing I did say to him, as I said, I'm always frustrated that people always call Hair the first rock musical 1969, when really Bye Bye Birdie was in 1960. But think about it. It was written while Elvis Presley was like writing that music, and Charles said he thinks because it was kind of pastiche, no one took it seriously, but it was the first musical that had an electric guitar. I mean, it was so modern, and I don't think people gave him credit for that. He also wrote a really nice letter after I did Disaster. I just found that also that he wrote. He saw Disaster on Broadway. It was very sweet. So, Judy, talk about this song.
Well, I did not sing this song in the show.
Wait, do I have the music, or did I think I have?
Oh, I brought it here.
You did bring it? Okay, because I have it on my iPad somewhere. Wow, you cleaned up this whole area. Who the hell cleaned up this house? It looks great.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Sorry, I need some water.
It was so messy this afternoon. It looks great. Wow.
So yeah, this song was sung by the central character Rebecca, played by Teresa Stratas, and let's see. So Rebecca was this woman who came to America with her young son in search of her husband, who had left Russia a couple years before, and I guess she didn't realize how big America was and thought she could find him, which she actually does in the second act. Right. But in the first act, she meets the Bella, who is the character that I played, and her father, that Dick Latessa played, on the boat. And they invite her to, she really has no place to go when they land at Ellis Island. And they invite her to come stay with them while she finds her way. So she's working in this garment factory, which actually is a Triangle Shirtwaist factory, but that's another part of the story. And she meets this young man who's a union organizer who's trying to unionize the shop. That Terry Mann played. And and they strike up a friendship, which maybe starts to feel a little bit more than a friendship, but she's a married woman. But he takes her out. He shows her New York, and this particular evening, he takes her to the Yiddish Theater, and he walks her home afterwards and leaves her on her doorstep, and she sings this song. Oh, it's way past time when I should be home in bed, but I'm standing here on this moonlit street instead. I want to drink the breeze in and bathe in lantern light. All my reason's gone, and I blame it on the summer night. I see couples pass, and their eyes are luminous, and they smile at me as if to say, you're one of us. What's going on here? The street is full of lunatics, sharing some pagan rite. If we're here till dawn, can we blame it on the summer night? I keep remembering his eyes, fiery pale in the moonlight, spinning my heart into this endless flight. But I'm not to blame, it's just the shameless summer night. I've got to stop this. I never felt so giddy. Why are the stars so bright? Through the streets I wander and blame it on the summer night. Maybe the sun will come soon. Maybe the morning will save me, clearing my mind, giving me back my sight. But for now I'm stuck in the sweet, seductive summer
Ça va? Judy Kuhn.
Thank you, Judy. And thank you,
Thank
Charles
you guys.
Strouse.
Thank you, Charles, for giving us all that beautiful music.
Absolutely. We'll see you next Tuesday, or Tanika Gibson will. Stars in the House for Foster Care Awareness Month. And thanks, Judy, for coming over.
Thank you for having me.
By the way, speaking of Stars in the House and speaking of rags, Judaism, this guy contacted me from, he runs something called Mostly Yarmulkes. And for Broadway Shabbat tomorrow, which, we do every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, the Jewish Broadway Alliance YouTube channel, he made Stars in the House yarmulkes. Isn't that great? Look at that. It says Stars in the House, and it says James on the other side. Oh, my God, Bar Mitzvah Boy. We've got a Bar Mitzvah Boy, finally. Mostly yarmulkes. Isn't that great? And I want to hear, I'll do a little close-up. Take a look at this, kids. Stars in the House on one side, and then we each have our own, and James has his own honorary Jew. Isn't that great? So thank you, Mostly Yarmulkes. Okay, see you all tomorrow. Go get that squirt of rags and listen to this clown. She's amazing. Okay, and see you on Tuesday.